Hello, this is Short Retelling and this is Papillon. The film tells a story based on real events experienced by the former prisoner nicknamed Papillon. The film begins with a message that the plot is based on real events, then a window opens in the iron prison door from which the main character peeps out, the prisoner Henri Charrière, nicknamed Papillon. Events move to Paris 1931. Papillon in an expensive suit opens a safe in someone's apartment. Then he goes down the drain and goes to a cabaret. He has a meeting with the owner of the establishment, who is eager to show how the thugs are beating up some poor fellow. According to the ringleader, he knocked on him to the police. Having taken the prey in the form of diamonds from the safecracker, the ringleader hints opaquely that Henri will face a worse fate if he tries to conceal the proceeds more than they should. Later, Papillon waits in an alley when his girlfriend's work shift is over, a girl with very dexterous hands for honest work. He gives her a necklace and the jewelry catches the eye of one of the leader's ringleader. After a stormy night, which includes drinking alcohol right on the street in front of performing artists, the landlord knocks on the apartment of naked Henri and his girlfriend. The thief, not suspecting anything bad in his address, opens the door and the gendarmes break into him, accusing him of murdering the local pimp, the same informer who was beaten the day before. Saying goodbye to his beloved girl, Papillon promises to run away and return to her. In the cell, the cracker Juliet unilaterally gets acquainted with the burglars. A new friend recommends getting money, otherwise you won't make an escape for anything. During a group physical, Juliet shows him Louis Degas, a counterfeiter who probably has money. After inspection, the citizens' prisoners are informed that they are being deported to French Guiana, a colony in South America, where they spend their term until the end of their lives, along the way entertaining them with hard labor for the good of their homeland. On the ship, Henri offers Louis patronage in exchange for some of the money needed to arrange an escape. Otherwise, preoccupied fat people will make sure that the scammer does not have time to spend money before prematurely death. Louis refuses, but on the same night he witnesses how a huge fat man gutted his neighbor for a hiding place. Realizing what's next, the counterfeiter accepts Papillon's offer. The next night, a fat man with a knife tries to kill Louis but is protected by a new friend. A fight is unleashed, which the guards stop by letting hot steam out of the hold. Henri's bloody hands testify to participation in a fight, after which he is punished by shackling him. During the disembarkation, Juliet falls down the stairs, after injuring his leg, which is stashed by sharpening. He is assigned to the medical unit, the rest are led to get acquainted with lifelong boarding houses. The chief commandant honestly admits that he is not opposed to the prisoners' attempts to escape. Those who are not shot will immediately be put in solitary confinement for 2 years, with a relapse for 5 years. If they manage to escape the sea around, it is teeming with hungry sharks, but if someone inadvertently kills, then glorious French invention, the guillotine in the first half of the 20th century was still actively used in civilized countries just in such cases. But the hot guy Henri is a real rebel, downright diligent son of anarchy's mom. The warning has no effect on him. He's already plotting a daring plan for early release. First need to get into the infirmary to the busily Juliet. To arrange the distribution, he negotiates with the local solver, but he needs money. Louis has to get a capsule from the anus with a problem along the way, soiled banknotes with a known substance. But money doesn't smell. After a voluntary contribution to the fund for those in need, Louis and Henri are assigned to the infirmary as orderlies. It would seem that the plan worked, but the counterfeiter is recognized by the deputy commandant. He has a personal score with Louis. Therefore, the duet is sent to hard labor to carry heavy loads. Here they meet Charrière, and at the same time they almost lose their stash when Louis pushes a cart of stones too hard. Henri finds the capsule and returns it to him, not so much out of friendship as out of an unwillingness to keep the finances to himself. At a halt, Henri and Charrière discuss the possibility of escaping. The old-timer has some ideas but needs money for a boat. The conversation is interrupted by the rubbish of some thug and Louis. The stranger wants to take away his money, Papillon intervenes, but the convoy stops the disgrace with a warning shot in the air. On the way back, the guards pick up a local ferryman with a batch of fresh courtesans. Papillon is trying to negotiate with him on the account to run away. But he almost betrays them, bargaining for a big price. As a result, he agrees to help only for everything about 3 days, after which the boat will leave the island. Later, during the shower, a group of comrades tries to redistribute material wealth, but brute physical strength, a little luck and an educational scuffle allow Henri to maintain his status as the owner. However, the incident makes Louis think that he will not last long here and asks to take him into the freedom with him. The next day, the prisoners are gathered in the square for execution. Some try to escape, stabbing a couple of guards in the process, one to death. Juliet was sentenced. Henri rises from his seat recognizing him. After cutting off the head, the commandant tells Papillon and another prisoner of his choice to remove the body. Henri chooses Louis, who does not smile at all, to carry the corpse. When they carry the body to the boat, the swindler becomes ill, he falls exhausted. The escort beats him with a whip, which infuriates Papillon. The burglar hits the guard on the head with a stone and prepares to run away. Exhausted Louis, who lost his glasses and is unable to even stand, has to be left. Henri jumps into the river under the whistle of bullets fired by the guards. By nightfall, Papillon reaches the ferryman's boat. He has no money with him, but he promises to pay later. In response, he laughs, his friends with weapons come out of the darkness. They have a contract with the commandant to catch fugitives, paid better than the convicts can offer. Henri is locked up in solitary confinement for 2 years where the silence cannot be broken. There he is periodically beaten and fed only so that he does not die. However, one day he finds half a coconut in a bucket of water and a note that from now on he will be fed better. Reinforced rations allow Papillon to perk up. He starts exercising to keep fit. There are enough proteins now. Incredibly, to swing in captivity, a happy accident helps him. Suspecting that something was wrong, the guards once checked the bucket and found a smuggled coconut. After that, the commandant himself came to ask who was so carefully feeding the ego. Papillon diligently maintains silence even when his already meager ration is cut in half. Then they close the roof over their heads, plunging him into complete darkness. Even when a hungry, emaciated him is seduced with fresh soup, he does not betray the benefactor. From darkness and silence, loneliness and hunger, Papillon are tormented by hallucinations and visions of the past. But he does not give up, and after the prescribed 2 years, he is transferred from the punishment cell to the infirmary, where he successfully portrays a lunatic. During this time, Louis managed to become a clerk and gain some freedom among the prisoners. He visits a friend in the hospital where he reports that he has not given up on the idea of escaping. But now the plan was developed by the fraudster himself. In a few days, there will be a movie show for local bigwigs. The commandant will increase security, but it will be mainly near the guests and not around the perimeter. In addition, the noise from the cinema will hide footsteps and other activity. Henri plans the details. He feigns violent fits in order for the doctor to give him a sedative, which is successfully postponed. Then he talks with a handsome boy on whom the bully orderly, yearning for a woman's caress, laid eyes. At the right time, he will have to be distracted. The final touch is the meeting with Charrière. He cut his hand to get into the hospital, but he can still get a boat if he has the money. Louis has to give him almost everything that is left. On the appointed day, Louis, playing the role of a waiter, pours a sedative into the vodka that he passes to the guards, supposedly a present from the commandant. At this time, Charrière distracts the lustful big man of the guard. Henri and Charrière unscrew the legs from the bed and then go to the shower room where they stun the guard. With his keys, they go down to the first floor. The guards there are already unconscious from the vodka-soothing cocktail. The fugitives are waiting for Louis, but he is detained by the commandant. Suddenly it starts to rain. The open-air movie show is interrupted and guests are escorted under the roof. But due to the short circuit, the light is turned off and, to the sounds of an automatic siren, Louis unlocks the door to his comrades and together they go out onto the wall of the prison. When they jump down from it, the electricity turns on. In surprise, Louis falls and breaks his leg. He is dragged in the rain to the river bank where the vendors are supposed to be waiting. They are met by armed men. Louis has to give the last of the money so that they take them to the hidden boat. But the plan succeeds, and already at dawn the fugitives on the boat got along the river to the ocean outlet. However, the fragile little boat soon becomes overfilled with water. Unfortunate sailors do not have time to scoop it out. Charrière offers Papillon to get rid of excess ballast, by which he means one of the small fellow travelers. The noble burglar, of course, refuses. Not for that they are together from the first kilometer. The situation is aggravated when a storm appears on the horizon. Charrière, knocking Charrière against Louis, takes out a knife. However, the handsome one also knowingly appeased the guard in order to kill accomplices now. He rushes at the big man, but flies overboard. A fight breaks out between Charrière and Papillon, in which the first almost drowned the second. Louis, who had been sitting on the sidelines before, realizing that he doesn't need that outcome, picks up the dropped sharpening and begins to systematically poke it in the back of Charrière. Throwing the corpse overboard and picking up a cute one, they get into a storm. In the next scene, Henri wakes up somewhere in a hut on some island. It is not clear how they got to land, but the local natives, led by Christian missionaries, sheltered them. Papillon finds Louis with a splint on his broken leg and tells him to leave, but he refuses. When he warned Henri that Charrière could not be trusted, he did not listen to him. Charrière does not want to leave either. He is finally popular not only with fat jailers, but also with charming natives. Papillon leaves the coastal camp alone, but having climbed the mountain, he sees the car of the jailers warned by the nun. He hurries a short way back to warn his accomplices. But he doesn't succeed. Cute was shot in front of his eyes and they were tied up with Louis, who is deeply touched by the fact that Henri came back for him at the risk of himself. In the next scene, a thinner and grayer Papillon is released from solitary confinement after 5 years. The commandant directs him to the island of the devil, a terrible prison on a lonely rock in the middle of the ocean from which it is impossible to escape because there is nowhere. There, in the old fortress, the dregs of the prison society, which is presented to itself, are living out their last days. Henri meets an aged Louis. The commandant did not torment him in solitary confinement for 2 years for the first escape and immediately sent him into eternal exile on the island. The swindler, who thus retained the remnants of his mind, draws pictures on the walls and generally lives quite well, compared to the rest of the contingent. But even after so many years, Henri is not happy with this. He is still planning his escape. To do this, he needs access to the ocean. Louis leads him to a cliff from which, theoretically, you can jump into the water and survive. But where to sail then without a boat? Watching the waves and tides, Papillon notices patterns and makes a plan to make a raft from improvised materials that the current will carry to the mainland. He and Louis make it out of sacks, coconuts, and scrap materials. However, on the day of the escape, the swindler refuses. He, unlike Henri, has nowhere to return. And here he is already well settled. Yes, him need to survive a jump from a cliff. Friends say goodbye, after which Papillon throws the fruit into the water and jump after. Louis looks at the circles on the water but does not see his comrade. He is already losing hope, taking off his glasses and wiping away his tears, when a jubilant cry is heard from below. Henri swam out and clung to the makeshift raft. They once again say goodbye to each other, after which Papillon swings on the endless ocean waves. A jet passenger liner suddenly floats in the sky. The case is transferred to 1969. Aged but surviving Henri flies to Paris, where he is still a criminal. He brings his notes to the publishing house, memoirs about the hard life in the colonial settlement, which he wrote down while he still remembers something. These notes should be published precisely in France, the country that mistakenly sentenced him to such a life. The movie ends with archival footage and credits about the fact that even during the life of Papillon, that prison was closed forever. The book became a bestseller and he was granted a pardon by the Minister of Justice. That's all. Share your impressions in the comments and subscribe to the channel. Best wishes.